Central banking is present in every country in the world, whether it's a developing or developed nation. Wealth can be unevenly distributed in the favor of those on the inside. The financial system, a fiat garbage lie, is owned and controlled by a set of few individuals at the top, molding and manipulating everything they choose. Paper currency is one avenue which allows individuals to transact between each other without government intervention, without profit to be made by the greedy bankers. This is unacceptable and will need to change. Welcome to the cashless society. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we will have our focus on the cashless society, something that has been tiptoeing towards the goal. Let's get into it right away. The rise of the cashless society. Quote, there is this real danger of exclusion, and that's one of the points I want to make throughout this. Cities from Sweden to India, it's not really a city, are pushing for a totally cash-free society. But as more shops and transport networks insist on electronic payment, where does this leave the smallest traders and poorest inhabitants? And essentially what I want to get to throughout this Guardian article, which is quite good actually, it talks about the small individuals, how they're trying to push out the small businessman. You know, it does cost money to have these terminals. Of course, that does or may translate into more sales if individuals are able to transact easily using, Apple Pay, or whether it's your debits or credit cards or anything else. You basically open up to more things. But what about if you don't accept cash anymore? Suddenly things get a lot different. So you see all these different shop owners and everything else. They own just, a little tiny stand. They don't have the money. They don't have the infrastructure, perhaps, to have all these devices. So it becomes very hard. And what does that do? The thing that I think about is you start giving even more rise to the big box stores. And of course, where things are more controlled and there's certainly some influence there, whether, you're not going to go down to the corner hardware store, you're going to have to go to the Home Depot, for example. And it just makes the big businesses bigger and the little guys either unemployed or have to go work for those big businesses. All right, let's look at this article deeper into it. Could we see a whole city go cash-free? From Seoul to Bergamo, cities big and small are at the forefront of global drive to go digital. Many of us are happy to tap their cards and the phones and hop on the bus, buy a coffee, and it goes on. But it raises the prospect of a time when we no longer carry cash at all. One of the things I want to say about the cashless society is that, yes, it may be beneficial to many people. It is a lot easier to carry around one card or maybe even your cell phone and tap that wherever you go. It's convenient. There's no denying that. Very convenient. You don't have to have these bills. You don't have to have coins. And you don't have to worry about losing those things. You just need to take care of that one thing. If it was your cell phone, for example, and you wouldn't need to worry about all the other things, taking out cash from the ATM and everything else. Totally understand that. I agree with that entirely. The downsides with a cashless society is control. And that is a very big deal. It's not something small. I think that when we look at a cashless society, we need to understand who's controlling the cash or the lack of cash, who controls the system entirely, and who will ultimately benefit. You will benefit in this way where it becomes easier to transact in between you and a store, for example. But who ultimately benefits the most? And that is the those in control of the government. When you look at the central banking establishments that are underneath that, you realize that every single one of these transactions, maybe it only makes them a penny or two, but you start doing these transactions, each individual, multiple transactions per day, and you will see that suddenly they're making a lot of money. At the same time, you have the factor of control. They are able to control every single transaction. What if you're an individual speaking up on your YouTube channel and suddenly you are considered to be questionable because of the content? Well, now, all of a sudden, your bank card stops working. Well, it's okay. I'll just pay with cash then to get that bread that I need for my family. Oh, no, sir. We don't accept cash here. And you could see where it goes. I mean, that's just one example. But essentially, what I don't like about it is the fact that in the end, it doesn't mean that, you as an individual can't have cash. They may not remove it from circulation entirely. It just means who are you going to transact with? If none of the stores are going to accept that, who are you going to transact with? Perhaps other individuals, but ultimately over time, I mean, paper dollars don't necessarily last forever. I mean, it can kill itself out. I mean, if they can remove almost all of the cash, they can basically do what they need to do. They don't have to remove every single bill from circulation. They can do all sorts of things. I mean, they could do what India has done and remove certain notes from circulation and then ultimately put a lot of people out of business doing it that way. No spare change for the busker at the station, the person sleeping rough in the need of a hot drink, the marker trader, the donation box, and it goes on. It's talking about, hey, what about these street vendors, the small merchants, and the poorest inhabitants? And that's who it really leaves out. But that's the intention, because you want the small businesses to be evaporated and you want the little guys to work for the big guys. That's the goal. So it's being done on purpose. And this cashless society isn't, the be-all, end-all, but it is certainly very, very important. It's easily to unify currencies this way. You don't need all these paper dollars to be printed, but it doesn't really... It's not able to work for 100% of individuals. That's why I don't know how long it would take something like this to really be put in place in many of the countries out there now, particularly in the developing nations. But look at what India is doing at this time, where you can see that clearly they're going ahead for this in one way while they pulled back on the two of their notes. So it's interesting. And one of the things that they mentioned here is the beauty of cash is that it's a direct and simple transaction between all kinds of different people, no matter how rich or poor. And that is very important to note. We can see that sort of being one of the strong points for cash. But things are changing. All right, let's look at this. Chicago and New York rank at the bottom of a new analysis of fiscal strength, based primarily on the data from 2015 financial reports issued by the cities themselves. The analysis includes 116 cities with a population greater than 200,000. And essentially, you can see the list for yourself. Basically, they go through it, and you'll see these regions. I mean, you look at California, for example, and it shows you a wide variance. But within California, you'll see the different cities there. Within New York, you see different cities, and there's fluctuations. So you can't just say, okay, California is in debt or New York is in trouble. It goes and really breaks down further. And what I noticed from this is that overall, you have a very, very big problem of debt. And debt is burdensome, not just to individuals who are struggling to get by, but to cities and states or provinces and countries as a whole. It's really crushing everybody. And it is no doubt that this is all being done intentionally. LA, Los Angeles, budget officials are warning that the city needs to immediately borrow tens of millions of dollars to avoid dipping into its emergency reserve fund after several high-profile lawsuit payouts. I mean, where is all the money going? Where is it? They have to borrow tens of millions of dollars? I mean, how much revenue are they making, and where is it all going? There's so much money flowing through LA. I mean, it is not a place that is impoverished or shouldn't be impoverished, considering the amount of really wealthy people that are there. And there's so many big businesses, all sorts of things. But yet it is definitely a place where there are many people struggling at this time. It's really interesting to see that chasm in between the rich and poor, no doubt. The party of Davos wakes up to the new world order. And all I wanted to note about this was, before the World Economic Forum, or Davos, begins, the way I see it is that this is like the public face to the Bilderberg group. These individuals come out here and they make all sorts of claims about how to fix the economy, what are the worst things, how do you deal with it, what countries should do, what businesses should do, and it's simply all a bunch of garbage because it's the richest of the rich telling everybody else how they should do their business. And then it's being promoted by the mainstream media as all the most intelligent people and everything else. Their videos of them and their articles and everything else, interviews with them, being written up as if this is a holy book for people to be taken literally. I mean, it's just a bunch of these big businessmen who are all interconnected with each other, and they've got nobody's interests at heart except their own. So watch what they say. I'll cover it here on the channel, of course. Take a look at it, and we'll see how that goes. This right here upset me quite a bit. I wanted to bring this to you. You may have seen this on your own. But Roseville man gets a $128 ticket for what? For heating up his car in his own driveway. It's Michigan, it's cold. This individual here said, you know what, I'm gonna go into my house for a little bit and warm up the car, and I'll be back in a few minutes. And he said it was about 7 or 8 minutes later that he came back out to his car only to find a ticket on it. And then he said, I'm gonna fight it. So the news station actually spoke to the police chief. And usually when you see something like this, the police chief or whoever it is might sort of downplay it and say, you know what, it's okay, this and that. The police chief said, this increases the crime rate because individuals will steal cars like this. Therefore, we are promoting that cops give these type of tickets. I mean, this is a tyranny. This is nothing else but a tyranny, a tyrannical government which has gone overboard. Look at the city of Toronto, where you have a city making over $100 million a year on parking tickets alone. And Toronto, although it is a major city, it's, $100 million literally being burnt up because the money doesn't go anywhere as far as I'm concerned. $100 million. Where is all the money going that they scam out of people every single day? And this is just one very good example. Last article for the day. Diplomat death riddle mystery as a top Russian diplomat Andrei Malanin found dead in his Athens home weeks after the ambassador was gunned down in Turkey. This individual here, they said there was no foul play right away. It's usually how it goes anyway. And there was no sign of a break-in. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to judge at this point, definitely. I just find it interesting that it was right after the other one from Turkey. Let's see where it goes. Anyway, I just wanted to mention it now, and we'll keep our eyes on it. Okay, if you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. But if you found this even better, what you're looking at here, well then give me a thumbs down. I hope you enjoyed that. I know a few of you definitely will. So one of the points that I wanted to make, just for one individual asked me what I use for this, for my little drawing tool. Well, I looked it up today, SwordSoft Screen Link. Okay, you can look that up if you want to see that for yourself. SwordSoft Screen Link. So to that individual, that's the name. It's the free version. I'll just say that if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book even more informative. This subject may be complicated, but the Money GPS makes it easy, and I did that by using charts and also diagrams that I drew up to make this very, very simple. If you want to look through the book, just go over to Amazon because they have a look inside feature which will allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.